Yo, what is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Big Four podcast. My name is Luke Spring, and I'm here with Nick Parga as part of another fifth quarter episode. After the two NBA games, the Game 1 Celtics lost to the Miami Heat, which we won't really talk about. The one we will talk about, though, however, is the Nuggets Clippers Game 7 of the
We
conference
can talk about some Celtics if we
semifinals.
want.
Nah, I don't.
Okay.
Celtics
Touchy subject for you?
No, not touchy subject. Celtics played bad, had some chances down the stretch. The Heat played better. Would have blocked by Bam. One of the best blocks I've
What
ever
a
seen.
block. What a block.
That's my analysis.
Okay.
I want to get to
Okay.
the game that I was more excited, even as a Celtics fan, I was more excited to see this game than the Celtics game, the Denver Clipper game, or Denver LA game. And there were some people that didn't show up. Nick, what do you think? First thoughts?
Well, I just want to
game?
say that last podcast we were talking about how it's between LeBron and Kawhi. Let me just clear all this murky stuff up, and yeah, that's over. I think we can determine that one's over.
Yeah.
No.
For this season, Kawhi can have his revenge next season. This season, yes, it's
you don't
over.
blow a 3-1 lead. If LeBron continues on the track, you don't blow a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets with Paul George, sixth man of the year, runner-up sixth man of the year, second team all defensive player.
The only reason I said that,
kind of lead.
And now that I sound like an idiot from last time, but the only reason I said that was because of Kawhi Leonard's historic, unbelievable playoff run last year. And I thought he could do the same because he averaged 30.5 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists last year in the playoffs and won his second final. Like, last year's dominance was to the point where whenever he had the ball, you knew it was going to go in. It was just that automatic with him last year. Right. And the only other player in my lifetime that I've seen that with is LeBron. So that's why those comparisons were made. So when he comes into the playoffs this year, you're thinking, okay, it's LeBron against Kawhi because, LeBron wasn't there the first time, and now Kawhi is ascending in the playoffs. So now we have LeBron versus Kawhi. Kawhi was very disappointing tonight, and to be honest, all playoffs. And
I just want to say for the record, no, it's tough to believe because after the fact, but I predicted Denver and LA in the West Finals. I didn't think Clippers had it. I didn't think they had the stamina. I think a big part of this frustrates me, the load management. They didn't get to play with each other as a team as enough as they should have. They didn't get to develop that chemistry. Coming down the stretch today, they gave George the ball at the wrong times. He forced shots. Leonard forced some shots. I mean, Leonard's consistent, so we could take Kawhi out of the equation. Paul George forced some PG forced shots. Montrezl Harrell couldn't get to his spots. Lou Williams wasn't able to get.
The only Clipper I was happy with, Montrezl.
Lou Williams didn't get enough touches as he needed to, and he didn't take good shots. Overall, it's because of the load management. Kawhi playing 2 games, taking 1 off. Playing 2 games, taking 1 off. Same thing with PG. That at the end of the day, they didn't play collectively enough together as a healthy Clippers team enough to develop that kind of chemistry. The Lakers, on the other hand, the Celtics, the Heat especially, the Miami Heat. That's why I think they're going so deep in this playoffs. The teams that are left, Denver, LA, Boston, Miami. What's the common theme?
They all play big minutes.
They all play big minutes, and they all played together a lot. Tatum, Walker, Brown, those are the centerpieces of that team. They didn't get hurt much this year. Butler didn't get hurt. Robinson, Hero, Adebayo didn't really get hurt much this year. You can say the same thing about the Lakers and the Nuggets. And Clippers, they just looked out of sync.
And that's why I think, especially when it comes to the playoffs, I know everyone raves about bench depth, but that doesn't really matter in the playoffs because you're playing your top 6 guys anyways. So even if you have an excellent guy who's your 8th man or 9th man, he's not touching the floor in the playoffs.
Right.
Not touching 100%. The floor. So it's just it's the top 5 or 6 guys who are going to play the bulk of your minutes. So even if, like, we always talk about how great the Clippers bench is, that doesn't matter. They're not going to play. They're not going to play.
I think the bench did come be a big factor in the Boston game. Second and third quarters when the Heat made their runs in the third quarter, and they eventually blew it when the Stars went back in. The Stars did their little 3-4 minute break in the fourth quarter. The Heat came back. I think the Heat have a much better bench than Boston. But the difference in that game is that the Heat use their bench more than any other team.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where you have more bench minutes playing for Miami that are taking advantage of their time on the floor.
And their
Clippers, people, I don't want to hear the argument. Oh, the Clippers beat the Lakers. They got George, Paul George. Those are fine names. Harrell's a fine name. Williams a fine name. I don't want to hear, oh, they have Landry Shamet. Oh, they have Zubats. Oh, they have Patrick Patterson. Green. Oh, they have Reggie Jackson. Oh, they have JaMychal Green. Those names shouldn't come up. They play 10 minutes a game. They shouldn't come up. Those names need to stay out of the conversation. When you're talking about Lakers and Clippers, the names should be talking about is LeBron and Anthony Davis, Paul George, and Kawhi. That's it. Last 5 minutes of a game, those are the only guys that are getting the ball.
Touching the ball.
Lou Williams won't come up big down the stretch. It's going to be those 4 guys.
That's what frustrates me the most because we just said it right there. The people who are going to get the ball down the stretch are Kawhi and Paul George for the Clippers. And from what I saw, Kawhi, for whatever reason, wasn't taking any shots in the last. Like, did you watch the game? He would bring the ball up and he would pass it and never not see it again. He wouldn't demand the ball. Why? I don't know why. I don't know why, what his thought process is. And that's not even what frustrates me the most. What frustrates me the most is Jamal Murray has 40 points and Kawhi defends him for 1 possession in the second half.
I think they felt really comfortable with Pat Bev, though. Pat Bev's also a great defender.
He is.
You don't want to take like. But here's why you need Kawhi on Murray, because Denver is having Grant can shoot, Harris can shoot, Jokic can shoot. Kawhi needs to be on the perimeter. He needs to be running around the perimeter. You saw a lot of zone from the Clippers, and Kawhi was running around the perimeter trying to defend the 3 ball. You can get one-on-one with Beverly, and you can get with Beverly and Murray. They can do one-on-one because those guys go right at it. And you saw Beverly come up with a couple of great stops. Mm-hmm. But you need Kawhi on the perimeter defending the 3. I thought the game plan was airtight. I looked even further. It really wasn't airtight because Denver definitely kicked ass today. But, I mean, down the stretch, I think I want to point great. I think what I mainly was going to say. I've noticed a lot of teams are playing deny. What the Lakers did with Lillard denied him. What the Celtics did with Embiid deny, or tried to at least. What the Celtics did with Lowry down the stretch. That's why Powell got that last shot. Deny.
What Toronto did with Kemba, they did the box and one.
What Toronto did with Kemba. What the Heat did with Kemba. Just deny. That's a very common theme. And what the Nuggets have been doing against the Clippers, denying Kawhi. Get the ball away from him and keep him on the other side of the floor, pin him away. They said, we'll let Patterson shoot. We'll let Harrell shoot.
Down the stretch. He was down the stretch in the end.
Right, down the stretch, what the Nuggets wanted the most. What the Nuggets wanted the most down the stretch was for the bench players to take the threes. If they make it, they tip their cap. But you don't want Kawhi to beat you. You don't want PG to beat you. Those are higher percentages. That's why I think Denver played great defense down the stretch. It's not the Clippers just shot themselves in the foot and couldn't make a shot. Denver played fantastic defense. And I think it came down a lot to, at the same time, it is contradicting to what I just said. Paul George didn't make a shot. But I think Denver put the ball in the hands of the players they wanted to take those shots. They put the Denver forced the ball into the hands of the Clipper players whom they wanted to take the shot.
Mm-hmm.
And the least percentage of making it.
So going back to what you said earlier about wanting Kawhi on the perimeter, that makes sense. However, anyone can close out on a shooter. Not everyone can stay in front of a man and just play hounding defense like Kawhi can. So again, Patrick Beverly is he's a dog in the NBA basically. But he's a little bit smaller than Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray can shoot over him. He can create more separation. If you have Kawhi on Jamal Murray, that cuts his scoring in half. Like, there's no reason, because you can throw in Jamal or most of the game, Kawhi's on the perimeter guarding Monte Morris and Jeremy Grant.
Those are shooters, though. Those are dangerous.
Yes, they're shooters, but you can put anyone on there. Just say, okay, you're guarding him, stay in the lane and just close out. Kawhi, yes, you can close out with Kawhi, but Kawhi does so much more that you need him on the best players down the stretch. And
Yeah.
just and
I see.
even
Here's what.
and it's not even thing with Doc. That's Kawhi. Kawhi needs to say to
Right.
Doc, he needs to go, this is the issue we had with Giannis.
He doesn't speak up. He's a quiet guy.
Giannis, right? Defensive player of the year. He was asked, why weren't you on Jimmy Butler in the last 2 minutes? Oh, it's what the coach want. No, if you're one of the best defenders in the world,
That's
go to your coach
mentality.
and say, give me that guy. Kawhi needed to say to Doc, I need to guard Murray. We need to win this game. This is what needs to happen.
Right.
Instead, he's like, oh, I'll do what coach wants. No, if you know that you can guard someone and you're the best defender on the floor, go guard the best player.
Right.
And that's just not what both Giannis and Kawhi did in their series, and that's why they lost.
Right. I also think that, the mismatch, honestly, Kawhi was on Monte Morris and Jeremy Grant and Gary Harris. But I think that at the same time, there's no one to put that Bev on. I mean, the size match, I think Bev really matched up with Murray intensity-wise. I think it was a mistake. I think they should have had Kawhi on Jamal Murray. Full agreement. I just want to try and shine light on the logic of why Rivers decided to have that matchup. I don't think he found another place for Pat Bev. I think, look where Pat Bev's been down the stretch. Christmas Day, who was he on last possession? He was on LeBron. He knocked it out of his hands. We've seen that. That's the one example that comes to my mind first. But we've seen several examples of that happening. I'm sure he was on Kemba when they played the Celtics, right? Down the stretch, right? We see it's a common theme where you see Pat Bev guarding the guy with the ball. So they wanted that matchup. I don't think it was the right matchup. I think you need Kawhi. You need the size. You need the versatility. But I think that's the logic. Pat Bev's been our guy the whole regular season. When we need him the most, he stepped up against the team's biggest stars with the ball in their hands. Why not? Why can't he do it this time? I think that's the logic of why Rivers decided to have that matchup. I don't agree with it, but I think that's the logic.
Yeah, that logic. Yeah, that seems like what it would be, and just when you have Kawhi Leonard, man, it's Kawhi. He's a two-time defensive player of the year, one time, at least once, I think twice. He needs to be on that. And then I'm looking at it right now. Paul George -20, Kawhi -21. That is awful. You can't have that.
And it's your so-called Kawhi, Mr. Clutch team to blow it like that in the fourth quarter. That's unacceptable.
He didn't even ask for the ball.
And they didn't get beat by Murray. I don't think they got beat. They got beat by Murray. I don't think they got beat by Jokic. I don't think they got beat by the Denver starting five. I don't think they got beat by Porter. They got beat by Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Jeremy Grant, Monte Morris, and Mason Plumlee. That's who they got beat by. In the fourth quarter, that's when Denver went on the run. Denver went up 15, and then Jokic came in the game. Right? There was a slow quarter start. It's a slow quarter. Denver makes it 2. They go up by 8, I think, maybe 10. And
Kawhi just didn't.
Doc doesn't call a timeout.
Ball.
I think you need a timeout. Right there. Call a timeout. Set your matchups. No, he wanted to let the boys play, which I'm fine with, as long as it works, which it didn't. And when you got timeouts, you got to use them.
Yep. And
when you got to use them to change pace, and the Clippers hadn't made a shot for the first 4 minutes of the fourth quarter. It was ugly. It was really ugly. Their first score of the fourth was a free throw by PG. Free throws by Paul George. The first scores of the fourth quarter was like with 8 minutes left. Yep. And they were down by like 13 at the time. The lead was already got out of their hands. You can never get to that point.
Yeah.
You can never get to that point.
And Kawhi being 0 for 5 in the fourth quarter. That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, sure, 0 for 5, but how do you only take 5 shots in the fourth quarter? That's what I'm saying. He looked like he wanted to bring the ball up, and he was passing to, Montrez or JaMychal Green on the wing and not getting it back the entire time and not even looking to get it back.
What Denver did, you saw a lot of double teams on Kawhi to get the ball away, to get someone open on the other side of the court, which they did. But Denver, I noticed, did a very good job of closing out. The rotations on defense were superb. They got the ball swinging around the entire court, and they get back into their set, one-on-one matchups, and then they go back to Kawhi for the double team, and the whole process start over. Eventually, the ball circles all the way to like Patrick Patterson or JaMychal Green shooting a corner three, which is a very low percentage shot for them. And that is where Denver made their money tonight.
Yep. And getting away from Kawhi, he played 44 minutes too, and still only had 14 points, minus 21, which is awful. But playoff P strikes again with 10 points, 5 turnovers, 2 for 11 from 3. I mean, man, is you have I don't know, you have the stigma for a reason, and Paul George just cannot deliver in the playoffs. It's just as simple as that. I don't know what it is with him. He just can't deliver in the big moment. Great regular season player, just can't do it in the playoffs. 2 for 11 from 3, 5 turnovers, and a lot of those turnovers were extremely costly. By the way, the Denver beat them by 15, right? Denver beat the Clippers by 15. Clippers had 10 turnovers. Denver had 20 total turnovers, doubled their turnovers, and still ended up winning by 15. That's just the Clippers not executing off the turnovers and making poor decisions on shots.
Well, at
and
the
just
same time,
overall,
I cycle back to one play. Pat Bev gets a steal on Jamal Murray, gets down the break. The hustle that Murray had on defense to get in front of Pat Bev, force him to cycle back around, ends up in a miss and a rebound going back the other way, which led to the Pat Bev block, but still. You know.
And
I just think it was the hustle plays. I don't think the Clippers shot themselves in the foot, but you can say that about every loss. The offense didn't do enough, and the defense didn't do enough for the losing team in any loss. At the end of the day, I think Denver played their butts off 1,000% and deserved to win this game.
I do too.
Their comeback was immense.
I forget what I was going to say now. I had something to say, but I forget.
Well, I just don't. Maybe Kawhi is not as good as you think he is. Maybe it was a one-and-done year.
See, to do something like that is hard to do. Go one and done. With averaging 30 in the playoffs, 39-4 in the playoffs, and what he did. It's just, again, I don't know what it was about this year. And that's not the Kawhi we saw last year. Last year in that situation, Kawhi has the ball 95% of the time down the stretch in the fourth quarter.
But last year they played the first round. They play a sorry team, easy win. Round 2, they get the Sixers, the dysfunctional 76ers. Now they had Butler. They won in Game 7. They took him deep. Let's be honest here. Third round was an easy game. It was an easy win against the Bucks in 5. The Bucks didn't have it. They don't have it.
It was the Bucks championship team. Wasn't it the Bucks in 6? I thought it was the Bucks in
5, 6. They still was quick work of the Bucks.
So this is what happened. Ready? This is why I think, and we already brushed on it. Hold on. Go ahead, because I want to see what that game went to. That series went to. I think it went to 6. It did go to 6. So after Game 2, it was. Game 2, Bucks were up 2-0, I think. Right? Bucks were up 2-0. Hold on, I'm pulling this up as we go. But I think it was Bucks up 2-0, and then the Raptors won the next
4.
The next 4.
Yeah, that makes sense now.
So this is what happened. The reason why they won the next 4 was because in Game 3, Nick Nurse, and I hate Nick Nurse, but this was a phenomenal coaching decision. He put Kawhi on Giannis. Before, it was Siakam and others, Marc Gasol guarding Giannis. Then he put Kawhi on Giannis, shuts him down. They win 4 straight. Why didn't Doc Rivers do this to put him on Murray or Jokic in any other game?
I think Harrell's a great defender. I think Harrell's a great defender.
He's just under your size. He's just
Jokic didn't really
hands up on the passes.
Jokic wasn't necessarily the Kobe Bryant on offense for Denver. He had 14 points.
Oh, but he played an exceptional role passing the ball too.
But that's not. That has nothing to do. Then that's not on Harrell. Harrell's playing great one-on-one defense.
He is, but he's smaller. He can't get his arms up in the passing lanes. It's easier passes for Jokic to get off because He's not being guarded by someone that's taller or as tall as him. So it's hard for him to – and I guess Jokic wasn't a great thing for Kawhi to guard. That's more of the center.
But if he guards – Zubac's a soft.
He fouled way too much in this series too. He was bad.
So this series, Denver wins. We go to the West Finals. We're in the West Finals. It's Lakers versus Nuggets. I think this is a very favorable matchup for LA. Partly because we have the center. Jokic is not a good defender. We've established that. We know that. He's not a great defender. Anthony Davis is one of the best interior scorers in the history of the game. And he's only 25 years old. He can post fade. He can spin around. He can get to the rack. He can score. Who's guarding LeBron on that offense? Paul Millsap sure isn't. He's not quick enough. He's their best defender.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And, yeah.
Murray sure won't. The matchups just don't fit.
The matchups don't fit.
They need They need to show off an offensive display. And frankly, I believe the Lakers have the best interior defense in the NBA. Some may disagree. But I personally, from what I've seen in the Lakers, I think they have the best interior defense in the NBA. If you're keeping Denver out of the paint,
I would say it's close with. I would say it's close with the Bucks, but they're definitely up there.
Best in the West.
Best in the West. It's not a favorable matchup for the Lakers, especially guard play either. But I don't think that matters. Like, no, I don't. I see this. Ready? I see this very similar as I do the Portland series, and people thought that Portland was going to give the Lakers a hard time because Damian Lillard was so good. Now Jamal Murray is no Damian Lillard, but he has been playing very close to Damian Lillard's status in these playoffs, and they don't have the perimeter defenders to stop someone like Murray or Lillard. But I don't think that matters because, as we saw in the Portland series, it's just too overwhelming. So I have a feeling that Denver will get a game or two here and there, maybe sneak one, early. But overall, it's just not going to work because
here's what I'm thinking.
Jamal Murray's not that guy.
What have we seen against Portland? Lakers lose game 1. Oh, LeBron's not the GOAT. He doesn't have it. They win in 5. They figure it out. Same thing in Houston. Exact same thing. They figure out. Denver plays completely different offense. They got a big high, and they got a guard low that can score on both ends of the basketball, shooting and driving to the rack. Same thing with Jokic, a stretch 5. I think the Lakers are going to lose game 1. Denver's riding real high. They've won 3 straight. They're on real high alert right now. Mm-hmm. They are high self-esteem, a lot of confidence. I think what is going to happen, Lakers lose game 1. They take game 2. They take game 3. Denver's pushed against the wall. They take game 4. They take game 5. Denver's up 3-2. Lakers take 6 and 7.
I won't even give them 3 wins. I'll give them 2
I'm giving
max.
Lakers in 7 just because I think Denver is a really high-scoring offense. I think the Lakers are going to sleep a little bit on Denver, at least in the first. I don't think they're going to win the first game. I don't think the Lakers take game 1. Sure, I don't think they sweep. I'm worried about LeBron in the play. I'm worried about oftentimes the Lakers when they ride high, they often get too caught up in the moment. We see it a lot, and they lost 4 straight in that Christmas game series. All winning streaks got to come to an end. They won 4 straight against Houston. They haven't played a team that could put up much of a fight. Portland didn't have a great defense. Houston doesn't have a great defense. Denver doesn't have a great defense. Denver's the best. I think Denver's a better scoring team. Just overall, they're riding high. I don't think Houston was riding high. Portland was riding high, but they didn't have the gas. They just didn't have the gas.
They don't have the weapons either around Lillard and McCollum.
And with the weapons that Denver has, you're gonna see a lot of Gary Harris. Gary Harris could put up a career series. I'm saying Denver in 7 because I said Portland in 7 and Lakers 1 and 5. I mean, I said Lakers in 7, Lakers 1 and 5. I said Lakers in 7 against Rockets, Lakers 1 and 5. So I'm hoping it's Lakers in 7 against Denver and the Lakers end up winning in 5.
Mm-hmm.
But what we have is I truly believe Lakers in 6, Lakers in 7. I think Denver's a tough team to figure out. And I think when their back's pushed against the wall.
Honestly, they are. Yeah.
I think when their back is pushed up against the wall, Denver just plays that much better. So I'm never going to count them up when they're down. If the Lakers get up to 3-1, I'm never counting Denver out.
I know that.
At least I have to put up a fight.
Denver, you just said it. I was going to say it right after you were done. Denver is weird to figure out. Like
No,
they held Kawhi and Paul George these last 3 games pretty much in check. And that's what and I don't know how, because when you look at them on paper, Jokic isn't a great defender. Jamal Murray's Paul Millsap is a pretty good defender, but everyone else, I mean, Jeremy Grant can defend someone, but other than that, they don't really have super good individual defenders, which is why I think it is super important for the Lakers around LeBron and AD to also play well and have a good series, because although LeBron and AD are much better than Kawhi and Paul George, we saw with the Clippers that if they're the Nuggets have that ability to take those top 2 guys away and make others score, and the
right.
others around them like Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams and Shamet, they didn't have great series. Again, LeBron and AD are so much better than those two. But if they have games where they are able to figure out how to stop LeBron and AD, the other people around the Lakers have to step up. And I don't know if they can do that because they are kind of iffy at the moment.
And then for the East series, I'm interested. I think Boston's going to pull it out.
I don't know.
They just got a lot of weapons. Hayward should be coming back soon.
That's the one. Yeah, that's
a big one. I still think they're going to win, but I think Miami's going to put up a fight. I don't know what it is about Miami. I don't know how they've made it this far and they've won game 1 of the series. I just don't get it. Do you think you can shine some light on that?
So I think this is what it is. Indiana was not going to win. Indiana's Indiana. They have their best player, Sabonis.
They didn't have Sabonis. Yeah, he was
gone. He was gone. Oladipo's coming off injury. They're whatever. Yeah. I knew going into that Milwaukee series that Miami was the best, or not the best team, but the best matchup.
Wow.
They're the best matchup. They're the best matchup in not only maybe in the East, but I honestly think the West, because they have Bam. Because they have Bam, who could guard Giannis, and he did that exceptionally well. They have Jimmy, who could guard Middleton, and he can do that He did that exceptionally well. And what we saw is you just have to be in the game for 3 quarters, because the Bucks aren't going to show up in the 4th. They don't know how to. So that if the Heat hang around for the first 3 quarters, that's all you need, because you automatically win the 4th, because the Bucks aren't going to do it. And then in this Boston series, that was just an insane back and forth game. And I think that's what's going to be the whole entire series, because, both teams are very evenly matched. Both teams pride themselves on their 3-point shooting, and they both shot the ball fairly well today. What killed the Celtics was letting Dragic and Crowder away while they were focused too much on Jimmy and Bam. And what killed the Heat today were again, same thing as the Celtics. They kind of focused on Brown and Kemba, and Tatum and Smart went off. So both teams have a plethora of weapons. So I think this is going to be a very close, hard-fought series. The one thing I do like about the Heat more than the Celtics is their ability for close game situations down the stretch. Tatum hasn't been that guy yet. He made some very poor decisions shooting the ball. Jimmy's been doing this for years with Philly, with Chicago. I can't say Minnesota because they didn't make the playoffs, so it didn't even matter. But he's been doing this for years.
I think they did. They didn't. I think they made like the 8th seed or 7th seed.
Maybe. Whatever. It was irrelevant anyways. I don't think they did, but it was irrelevant. Jimmy's been doing this for years. So, and these games are going to be very close. So I think that they have the advantage as it comes down the wire. Now, if Gordon Hayward comes back, that could be a different story, because the Celtics will now have him off the bench. I don't think they should start him right away. I think Marcus Smart in the starting role is much better, or not much better than off the bench. I'm just saying right now, don't take that away immediately and put Gordon Hayward right back into the starting lineup. But when he comes back, that gives them that extra score. He's essentially right now, because Dragic is starting over Nunn, he's essentially their Kendrick Nunn, but will score a little more. Because right now the Celtics don't have a guy who will score double digits off the bench. The Heat do, and that's Kendrick Nunn. But once the Celtics get back Gordon Hayward, then that's a double-digit point score off the bench, and then they'll be even more evenly matched. So I think right now it's the advantage Miami if Gordon Hayward doesn't come back, because these games will be close, because Jimmy is the closer and they don't really have anyone. Kemba, I mean, hasn't had playoff experience, like we said, and he hasn't been in a lot of close games, so he has no chances. And then Brown and Tatum are just too young.
Right.
Jimmy's been doing it for years. So if they're close games like this, I think that the Celtics are in trouble. But if they get Gordon Hayward back, they can stretch those leads to 8 or 10 with like 2 minutes left, and then that's a lot harder on Jimmy. But if these games are one possession games in the last 2.5 minutes or so, I think the Heat have a lot better of an advantage over the Celtics. That was a lot of talking. You have anything to
No,
add
honestly,
to that?
you covered it. You covered it. It makes a lot of sense. You made a lot of great points. Yeah, you pretty much covered it. I love to see a nice little Lakers Celtics in the finals. I can't. Here's the thing. I based on my predictions on who I can and cannot see in the finals. I can't count out LeBron. I can't see Denver in the finals. We're too young. I can't see the Heat in the finals. We're too young. That leaves 2 teams left. Lakers.
Celtics are pretty young though too. I mean, they do have more experience because this is Tatum's second conference finals and Brown's third, so they have way more experience than the Heat. Right. And in that sense, they are younger. But the Heat do have Crowder and Iguodala, but they're not going to play major roles like Tatum and Brown are. So that doesn't even matter.
I'm gonna say this thing. I think Lakers are going to win the NBA Finals.
I texted that to you today. I said congrats on the NBA Finals because I feel like I'm
not counting it out yet. I think they're better than the Celtics. I think they're better than the Heat. I think they're better than Denver. I think they're the best team.
The best team right now. They are.
I think they're gonna. I think you can't count out LeBron. If they were the best, they could still be the best team. If they had someone else other than LeBron, I wouldn't. I would count them out. Or at least I would make it a lot closer. LeBron's a guaranteed bet. It's like Tom Brady. The Patriots in the playoffs with Tom Brady, you can never count them out. Ever, ever, ever count the Patriots with Tom Brady out. You can never, ever count LeBron James out of the playoffs. Doesn't matter what team he is. If the Lakers are the best team in the league, best team remaining with LeBron James.
Yeah, I think they are the best team. And that's why I am so frustrated. And it's not even close. That's why I'm so frustrated. You can't see them
blowing it because they have LeBron. That's the thing.
That's why I'm so frustrated at the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard tonight because that would have been so cool to see Kawhi versus LeBron, the Battle of LA for the NBA Finals. Like that narrative right there would have been so cool, but Kawhi blew it. He choked. Like how cool would it have been to put if Kawhi played in this playoffs like he did last year, he's just on a tear. LeBron's on a tear, and they meet in the conference finals, Battle of LA. Kawhi versus LeBron. That would have been that. They might have won.
I'm sorry. The Lakers would have won.
It would have been so cool to see Kawhi versus LeBron, both at their peaks. Well, LeBron maybe not his peak, maybe a little bit lower, but basically both at their peaks. Man. Basically both at their peaks. That would have been so cool, and that's why I was so disappointed in Kawhi tonight, and he has been in this playoffs because we haven't seen – because again, like I said, Kawhi's dominance last year we haven't seen in this era of basketball except for LeBron James. And LeBron, with a terrible team and an injury last year, didn't get to make the playoffs, so we didn't get to see that last year. But this year we had a chance, and Kawhi blew it. So now we have to wait another year, and who knows? That's a lot of question marks, blah, blah, blah. So we may never, ever get to see this matchup, which I'm very disappointed in because I feel like it would have been a fantastic one to see, but Kawhi choked it away.
Right.
That's why I made the comparisons last night because the only 2 people to really do that in this era are LeBron and Kawhi, and then you go back to Jordan. So, like, the greatest of all time. I
disagree with you, and I still do. I see where you're coming from, I guess. But I'm definitely not agreeing with that statement that we're comparing Kawhi and LeBron. I don't think they need to be compared to. I think LeBron's way better, and it's not even close. But that's
from last year. Well,
that's
from
an
last
argument.
year's
This is an argument for another time.
Run.
This is an argument for a 4-person podcast, baby.
Well, so I'm just saying Kawhi's run last year is compared to LeBron's runs in all of the playoffs. Like that.
So is Murray's run this year?
No, it's not. He's not averaging 30, 10, and 4.
He's averaging close to 30 points in the playoffs. Jamal Murray, he has like 3 50-point games, and he had 40 tonight.
Okay, but the
That
thing
alone
was,
is like 30.
but he also has a few. He also has a few games where he's put. I'm saying Kawhi was a consistent 30. He didn't have a game where he had under 13. He had every single game was 30 plus. Every single game. I think they played. I forget how many games they played, but oh, around half of them were 30 plus points per game. Yes, Jamal Murray is playing very well, but it's not every like last year watching him in the playoffs was just it was unbelievable. Something again we haven't seen since LeBron. So that's why people compared that run to him to LeBron last year, because that run had only been achieved by LeBron in this era of basketball. And people thought he was going to do it again because he did it last year with a worse Toronto team, but he just couldn't get it done this year. So, I mean, that comparison for the time being is out the window because Kawhi choked it away. But anyways, we have been talking for a while. You got any
But
last
it
words?
was a great talk.
It was. You got
It was a great
any
talk and a
last
great
thoughts?
discussion. No, we
No?
covered everything.
Yeah, I think we did. Thank you guys for listening. Go check us out on Apple Podcasts. We have a YouTube channel now too. That is in the link of our Instagram bio, which is at the Big Four _podcast, same as our Twitter. Go follow those as well. Thank you guys for listening and see you next time.